Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. It's week 7. Oh, my goodness. Week 7 of the English Country Dance Style and Technique class. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you can all hear me and see me. Great. And I can see you as well, or if you are letting me. So you are on screen with me. You can choose to turn off your video if you want to, but I'm happy to see you. Hold on one second. I'm going to pin me so that, okay. So I'm happy to see you if you want to be seen. And you can, if you have questions or if I want feedback from you or if I want to hear from you, you can unmute yourself and, you know, feel free to talk. There's also the chat bar, as you see, and there's the participants bar also. And usually at the bottom of the participants bar, maybe under more, possibly, you can do the little hand raise thing. There's some little symbols down there. Do you all see that? I'm actually not seeing it on mine, and I don't know if it's different. Oh, good. I see a hand. Great. Okay, good. You can put your hands down. Great, thank you. Okay, so thank you for joining me early, by the way. It's 5:30, we usually start at 6. We're gonna do a special class today on music and music theory, if you will, very basic music theory. I'm not gonna get too heavily involved, partially because I don't know it that well. I'm not that comfortable with music theory, but also because I don't feel like it's really necessary. This is a dance class first, and we want to learn music in the way that it helps us become better dancers. So we don't need to get too into the weeds. But for weeks since the beginning, this is week 7, since the beginning, I've been talking a little bit about music and saying, I don't want to get too technical. So now is the time to get a little bit technical. So, so that's why we're going to do this class today. So we're going to dance less. We're not going to dance as much. I'm going to start talking about music, and we'll see how far we go. And then hopefully we'll get to do some dancing. That's why I'm starting earlier, so we can go longer. And then hopefully we'll get to do at least our warm-ups and maybe a little bit of dancing a little bit later. But for now, settle in, relax, and we'll talk music. Let's see. I said everything. I think I said everything about Zoom. So I think we can just jump in. I will say about the music, again, I'm not going to get too technical, partially because my knowledge is semi-limited. I am a dancer who knows music. I am not a musician. I have played music in my life. I used to sing. I used to sing. I used to play percussion in my father's band, believe it or not. I'd studied piano when I was younger, but I haven't kept up with anything. So I'm very out of practice when it comes to sight reading and stuff like that, but I do know how to read music a little. And now that you all want to leave, because why should you trust me for anything, I'll jump I'll jump into the stuff. So out of curiosity, how many of you have studied music? You can use the little blue hand to raise your hand. I know there's at least a couple of you who have, like Lindsay has, I know that. Anyone else? I think Deirdre, if she's here.
Lee.
Lee, yes, that's right. Lee, you know music. Great. Excellent. Okay, good. I was just curious, because just to see, you know, where I'm starting from. Oh, and Eileen, great. Awesome. Okay, cool. So you might be bored because I might teach you stuff you already know. Okay, Kara, awesome. But hopefully you'll get something new out of this. Who knows? All right. So I've said some of this before. We'll start by talking about the elements of time. And there's let's see, I'm gonna share my screen little by little. Sorry, I'm being indecisive. Yeah, sure. I'll show this part of my screen. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see this? Oh, sorry, not that one. This one. Good.
We can see it.
Great. Yes, it's got a green thingy around it, so I assume you can see it. Okay. And I'll be honest, I feel terrible because I don't remember where I got this from. I got it such a long time ago. Dance, you'll see it says Dance in Society, American University. That's a class that I first took and then taught at American University, where I got my master's degree back in 2000, 1999, something like that. So something like that. So I don't remember where this came from, and I feel terrible. But regardless, so this talks about the elements of time. If you want to take a screenshot, you can. And it's just, I'll just kind of go through them quickly. Some of these I've talked about before also. So the first thing is there's an underlying beat. Every music, everything has a beat, yeah? Just sort of an underlying pulse. And then everything else kind of hangs on top of that, if that makes sense. It's a steady beat that's continuous throughout the music, okay? The tempo is the speed of the music, right? How fast or how slow it goes, okay? The accent is the emphasis. Usually it's on the first beat of the measure, and I'll get to measures. But so it's an emphasis. It's a little heavier beat than the others, right? And this breaks it down also into metrical accent, which is the first beat in the measure, or rhythmical accent, which is some other beat, not the first beat, right? And then it also has accent of execution, which I won't go into, but that seems to be more like where your physical moment happens, because this is about dance as well as music. Okay, then, so you have your underlying beat. Then the measures, and again, this will make sense as I show you more music. The measures are how the beats are collected together. So you can string a couple of measures, a couple of beats together into a measure, okay? Or bar, measure is the same thing. Bar is the same thing as measure, okay? So you group them into slightly larger units. Another way to think about it is if the beats are like words, then a few beats in a measure is like a sentence, okay? I'm going to jump down to phrase. If you string several measures together, then you have a phrase. And that, if beats are like words and a measure is like a sentence, then a phrase is like a paragraph, okay? I've said that in the past few weeks, but it's always good to reinforce, yeah? Jumping back up to meter, the meter, can you see my cursor? The meter is the same as the time signature. So it's the way that you, let's see. Sorry, I wrote down a little easy to remember definition. Anyway, the meter or the time signature is the musical phrase. So it's how the beats are, grouping together a certain number of beats at a certain tempo. That's right. It's the certain number of beats at a certain tempo. And we'll talk about that more as we get into it, okay? And actually, let's do that. So I'm going to stop sharing that. Hopefully you're not too confused. I think it'll be clearer as I go. Oh, good, Reed. You did violin and viola in high school. Cool. Sorry, you sent that to me privately and I just told everybody. Sorry. Okay, so let's see. So those are the basic elements of time. Now, in music, I said that you know, in music there are different note values. Okay, so like the pulse, I mentioned the pulse. Usually the pulse will be in like quarter notes or eighth notes or something like that. So let's look at the different note values. And I'm gonna share my screen again. I'm gonna go ahead and share my whole screen. It's kind of a mess because I have a lot going on. I have a lot of windows open, but I'm gonna go ahead and share the whole screen because eventually we'll wanna see everything, I think. So we'll see how this looks. Told you that I have a lot of windows open. Okay, so here we are. Whoops. And if we look over here, can you see where my cursor is? We can see the note values. So that big round circle is a whole note. The smaller circle with the it's called a staff. I think it's called a stem on it is a half note. The filled in circle with the stem is a quarter note. The filled in circle with the stem with a little flag is the 8th note. And then two of those little flags is a 16th note. There's also a 32nd note, but it's not in this drawing. So, okay, and then you have rest values, a whole rest, a half rest, a quarter rest, an 8th rest, and a 16th rest, as you can see, right? By the way, I yanked this off the web from a site called, what was it called? musicnotes.com. Learn how to read music. So you could always go look there. Okay, but what that means is most things are, again, in or can be broken down into quarter notes, okay? Kind of regardless of time signature. They can be, no, that's not true, but it's often in quarter notes. So a whole note is equal to 4 quarter notes, okay? As you see here, I keep pointing at my screen, but you can't see my finger. Anyway, as you can see here, a whole note is equal to 2 half notes, right? Which is equal to 4 quarter notes. So if I have my underlying beat, I'm just going to clap. Here's an underlying pulse, right? La, 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 la. That's 4 quarter notes, right? La, la. That's 2 half notes. La. That's a whole note because it's 4 beats sustained for the whole time. My lovely singing voice. Yeah, does that make sense so far? Is everyone with me so far? I think I've lost track of the chat bar, but I'm not sure where the chat bar is, but please unmute yourselves and call me because if you have questions, because I think I've lost the chat bar. Okay. But hopefully you're all with me so far. Okay, so as I said, a whole note is equal to 4 quarter notes. 2 quarter notes equals a half note. Also, 8 eighth notes, or 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note. So here's the next group of note values, right? 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4 equals 8 eighth notes. And you can count that by going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if I have, Christopher, did you have a question? Did I see your hand raised? No, okay. Okay, cool.
I see that Eileen has her hand up.
Oh, does she? Okay, jump on in. Go ahead.
You're muted.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
No, I didn't have a question. I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I'll lower your hand. There you go. All right. So, so again, 4 quarter. So if I go back to my quarter notes, and I want to say eighth notes, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. The same as that, right? Equal to that is 16 16th notes. And as you can see, we would say 1 E and a 2 E and a, right? So here's my quarter notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and quarter note, 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay? And then sometimes when you get into like rhythm where it's that fast, you would end up going da-da-lee-da, 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 or whatever, or, you know, ba-ba-doo, ba-ba-dee-da-lee, da. You know, it's easier to use nonsense syllables than to actually say the numbers, depending on what you're doing. Okay. All right, so it's basic math. It's essentially, it's basic math, right? 16th notes equal quarter, you know, so many 16th notes equal so many quarter notes. It's like fractions, right? And I hate math. Hi, pretty girl, I have a cat visiting me. So it's basic math, which I hate, but I'm better at math than I thought I was, so that's good. Okay, and then I'll just mention quickly, there's beaming, which is what we had in this picture, right? With all the little flags, the separate flags. If you string them together, you put that bar across the top, boop, it's easier to look at the notes that way. So that's all that means. But the single flag, as you can see here, the single flag or stem or beam is eighth notes, right? The double stem, hi kitty, is 16th notes. And if there were a triple, a third stem, that would be 32nd notes. Everyone with me so far? All right. So let's see. Let's take a look at a piece of music. So I'm going to pull up Portsmouth. That's this right here. And so as you see, this is our staff, right? Can you see my cursor when I do that? Yeah, more or less?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So as you see, this is, by the way, this particular piece of, this is a booklet that Mendocino Dance Camp put together. And I wasn't there, but I just took it off the web. So I'm not sure who put it together other than people at Mendocino, but there it is. But as you can see, they put together like a full, they have a few different lines of music because they have kind of a melody, and they have, the top line usually is a melody, the middle line is harmony, and then the bottom line is a bass line, or something like that. So it could be more like a piano score in this sense, as opposed to, not that, sorry, as opposed to, where is Portsmouth? But it's the same basic idea. This is from Barnes, okay? And it's, as you can see, it's just 2 lines of staff. It's just the melody. He's got chords, the little letters there that are chord suggestions, but he doesn't spell out what letters or what notes would go within those chords, right? It's just the melody here, okay? So this is Portsmouth. If we go through the staff, sort of in order of the elements of the staff, right? You can see this thing here, of course, is, and I'm sorry if this is kind of remedial for some, but it's good to go through it. This, of course, are the clef. This sort of S-looking thing is the treble clef, and that's the pitch. It's a higher pitch, whereas this one, that sort of backwards C with the dots, is a bass clef, and those are lower pitch or lower timbre pitch. So, and as you see in the Barnes version, he only has the melody, the treble clef, okay? And of course, there are, this, by the way, most of what I'm talking about when I say like the common clefs or common time signatures, these are for Western music. If you go into Eastern music or other, you know, multicultural, other different styles of music, you're probably going to get a lot more varieties that we don't do as much here. So I'm not going to, you know. So again, this is common in terms of Western music. So back to our staff, and again, the whole thing, this sort of 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, is the staff. Okay, it's what you sort of, it's the thing you hang the notes on. So we have the treble clef in this case, with this hashtag thing is the time signature, sorry, the key signature. And I'll be honest, I'm terrible at key signatures, so I'm not even going to tell you which one this is because I'm not sure. It's G.
The key of G.
It is G, that's what I thought. So the number of If there's no, this is called, that little hash mark is a sharp sign, or there can be flat signs. I'm trying to think if there's a flat in here. No, there isn't. I'm not going to look for one. Flat looks like a little B, basically. And so the time signatures can be delineated by the number of sharps or flats. If there's no sharps or flats at all, it's C major. And then there's a whole circle of fifth things where you can figure out how, and there's little, you know, shortcuts to figuring out what the key is, and I forget what they are. Although often it'll start, you see how this little G right here, that's the suggestion for the key, that's for the chord. That's why I knew it was G, because often that'll be the same as what the key signature is. Not always necessarily, but often. Okay, so we got the key signature. And again, I'm not going to get into that more than that today because we don't really need it. And then, of course, is the time signature, right? Or the meter, okay? And the top, so you see there's two numbers there. It's a 4 and a 4. The top number refers to the value. Wait. Oh, I've got this backwards. I'm sorry. Hold on. It's been a long day. Yeah. The top number is the number of beats per measure, and the bottom number is the value of each beat. That's right. Sorry, y'all. So the top number, again, is the number of beats per measure. The bottom number is the value of each beat. So in this case, it's 4/4, which means 4 quarter notes per measure, right? The quarter note is the value that we're counting in. And there's 4 of them in each measure. Or there should be 4 of them, or it should add up to 4 of them, right? So it doesn't mean that each bar is necessarily going to have 4 quarter notes in it. Depends on how it's written, right? But it's going to add up to 4 beats. Okay? So if we look at Portsmouth here, right, you can see there's one little note, and it's the one with the stem, right? It's the filled in circle with the stem on it. And then there's these 2 lines right here, or is a thick line and a thin line, and then the 2 dots. What that is a repeat sign. And it goes in tangent with this one over here. You see where my cursor is? Down here, measure 8. Of course, 8, obviously. Right? And you can see the 2 dots over here are sort of facing the direction of the 2 dots up here, right? So the way you would read this is you go through, and I'll play the music in a second so we can see, but you would go through all these notes. You'd sort of play these notes. Oh, sorry, I did it wrong. Oh, you can't see my finger anyway. You go through these notes, this one, this one, this one, jump down to this one, this one, this one, this one, hit that little repeat bar and go back up to here. D, 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 D. Okay? Then you go through and play the rest of it. And as you see down at the bottom, there's that little repeat bar again. And it's sort of facing, the 2 dots are facing these 2 dots up here. So that tells you that you go back just to this part, not all the way back to the beginning. Does that make sense so far? Am I losing anybody? No, we're good. Okay, great. Again, please feel free to, again, I've lost track of where the chat bar is. So if you're, oh wait, here it is. Yes, thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, she put the little repeat bar thingies in there, in the chat bar. Okay, good. I found the chat bar, good. But also feel free to unmute yourselves and just call out to me if you have a question. Okay, so what I thought would be interesting would be to compare this. I want to compare this Portsmouth here because as you see, it's in 4/4, right? Which again means 4 quarter notes per measure, right? 4, right, we're counting in quarter notes, and 4 of them would fit within each measure. Okay, but this is the one, this is the Mendocino booklet, right? If we go to Barnes, we'll see that this is written in 2/2, a time signature of 2/2, which means, anybody want to tell me what that means? No? Okay, so 2 means basically half note, so it's 2 half notes per measure, okay? So if we look at the notes, and here you can see them, you can, hopefully, you can see them side by side, right? We've got the 4/4 version over here on my left, and then the 2/2 version over here, right? And they look very similar, right? They look very similar, but the one on the left over here, which is in 4/4, has what's called a dotted quarter note, followed by an eighth note, followed by 4 more eighth notes, okay? Just looking at that first measure. Whereas the one in 2/2 over here, the Barnes version, has, and I'm just looking at the first measure, the dotted quarter note. Oh, it's the same, dotted quarter note, eighth note, 4 eighth notes, okay? So it's exactly the same, right? And and that's fine, it's kind of supposed to be, because it's basic. Yes, exactly, I'll get to that in a second. Oh, sorry, okay. It's the same because basically half of 4 is 2, right? So if you're using quarter notes, it's 2 quarter notes go into a half note. So it sort of ends up being the same thing. It all adds up to the same thing. So the question was, what does the dotted note means? And it means, as Lindsay said in the chat, it means half of that value. So if I go back here for a second, there it is. A dotted half note is an eighth note, dotted half note is a half note plus half of that, which is a quarter, okay? So if a half note is 2 beats and a quarter is 1 beat, then a dotted half note is 3 beats, okay? And you'll see here these ties. If the 2 notes goes over a bar line, then it's tied, which is that circular half circle line, half circle thing, right? But it has the same result. It's a half note held together with the quarter note. So it's 3 beats. Okay, everyone with me so far? So if we go back to Portsmouth for a second, and let's look at the Barnes one, just because it's slightly easier to read, because it's just the melody, right? Which is all that we're concerned with at the moment. So it's, and I'm skipping this little, I'll get to this in a second. I'm skipping this little note here, and I'm just starting right here on the dotted note. So it's da 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 da. I'm gonna go back and do that again, and here's my beat, right? Da 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 da, and if I keep going, right? So 1, 2, yeah. They sound the same, right? I'm just thinking the 2 different musics, the 4/4 over here and the 2/2 over here, they sound the same. But technically, if I were to count them, there's that word technically again. If I were to count them, the 4/4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yeah, like that. Whereas the 2/2 one would be, because it's half notes, it'd be 1 and 1 and 2. Let's see. Yeah. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, 2. Yeah, does that make sense? Kind of. Not that you have to worry about that necessarily. If you're teaching, you might want to, because it's helpful to know, where the rhythms are, exactly what the beats are, exactly what the rhythmic pattern is, that kind of stuff. But if you're just dancing or listening, you don't necessarily have to be able to say the words, say the numbers, right? Okay, but I just wanted to break that down. So I'm just gonna quickly play it. And this is from the album The Nightcap. Again, big thanks to Bare Necessities for letting me play their music. They're wonderful. If you are able to give them a donation, they would be greatly appreciated, as would I. So this is Bare Necessities, and this is from their album Nightcap, which was an album intended for listening, not necessarily for dancing. So they've taken a lot more liberties with how they play the music and how they sort of arrange it to make it more beautiful, or play with the tempos a little bit to sort of make it more orally interesting, right? And so this dance is usually danced quite a bit faster than the way this is played. But I like it for this because we can try to follow the music along as they're playing it. So I'm just going to play it, and then I'm going to jump back over to here and kind of go through. Can you see my cursor? That repeats. And they play with the music a little bit, with the tunes, the melody. Some of the notes are not quite the same. Some of them are syncopated. Then it jumps to the B part. That's a little different from how it's written. All right, I'm going to pause it there. Whoops. You could hear that, right? Could you hear that? The music? Okay, good. Great. Okay, so we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, so that's Portsmouth. Where was I? What was I talking about? Are there any questions? Is anyone lost or anything like that? Is there anything anyone's confused about? No? Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna just check my notes really quickly. Great. So let's look at Child Grove, just for fun. It's another example of a 2/4. Excuse me, 1 second. There it is. Okay, so this is another example of a tune that is written in a different way in the Barnes book than it is in this Mendocino book, which I think is kind of interesting. So in Mendocino, over here on my left, it's in 2/4, right? But in Barnes, over here, it's in 2/2, okay? And that's gonna change the notes that they use to write out the tune. Because, again, the bottom number of the time signature is the value of each beat. Oh, and I forgot, that's right, sorry. I forgot something, but I'll get to it. So the bottom number is the value, right? So in Barnes, where it's 2/2, that means it's a half note, right? Half note is the measure of note that we're counting with. right? And there should be 2 of them in each measure. Over here in the Mendocino one, it's 2/4, which means 4, the bottom number, it means quarter notes. So there's 2 quarter notes per measure. Is everyone with me so far? So over here in the 2/4, you can see, again, ignoring that first little note for a second, these all have this filled in circle with the stem and then with the beaming, right? That's the flag, which means those are all eighth notes, okay? And you can see 4 eighth notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 in that first measure, okay? Which equal 2 quarter notes, right? 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note, so 4 eighth notes equals 2 quarter notes. Basic math already, right? If we go over to here to the, the Barnes one, that is half notes, right? It's measuring in half notes. And so the notes that are drawn into the staff are quarter notes, because 2 quarter notes equal a half note, okay? So it's written differently, but it sounds the same. It sounds the same, and it's read, you know, if you sing it, it's read the same, basically. Do, do, I'm picking a key out of the air. Do, 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 do. That's that dotted note, which means hold in this case, a quarter note, and then half of a quarter note, which is an eighth. Do, 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 and then there's 3 eighth notes, correct. And then another quarter, okay? And we all know what child grove sounds like. But if I play it, just so we can hear it and see it, and I do that all the time because I don't trust my pitches. And it's faster than I was singing, certainly. And then it repeats that, right? There's that repeat bar. Then it jumps down to the bottom lower bar. Okay? So again, the math is there, right? Quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, that, right, equals 2 half notes, right? The first 2 quarter notes equal 1 half note. The other 2 equal 1 half note. That's a half note, obviously equals a half note. These are 2 quarter notes equals a half note, yeah? If we jump over to this bar, we've got a dotted quarter, which means a full quarter plus half, which is an eighth, right? And then another half. So those 2 notes equal 1 half note, right? And then da, 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 2 eighths and a quarter equals 1 half note. Yeah? Basic math. Everyone with me? Okay, cool. Again, shout out if you're not, or use the chat bar. I've got the chat bar now. Okay. So what you'll also see, if everyone's cool on that, everyone's clear on that. If I go through this again, over here we have 2/4, just a quick review. We have 2/4 over here, so it's quarter notes, but it's written in eighth notes, so it ends up being the same. So we got 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter, 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter. That's 2 quarters. That's 1 measure. Then there's a quarter, and then 2 eighth notes, right? That equals 1 measure, because it's the 2 eighth notes equal 1 quarter, and then another quarter. Yeah, everyone with me? If I jump again to this 4th measure over here, it's a dotted eighth, which means an eighth plus half of that, which is a 16th, right? And then another 16th, right? It's got 2 flags, so that's the 16th. A 16th note, yeah? Dotted eighth plus 16th equals the same amount as a quarter note, right? And then 2 16th notes and an eighth note is another quarter note, and that's your whole bar. Okay, everyone good? All right, now I forgot to mention this little note over here, right? And when I was talking about Portsmouth, that is called a pickup note, or the fancy term for it is an anacrusis. Okay, it's a pickup note. It's a little note, da 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 da, whatever key is I'm in, da 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 da. Oh God, whatever. Here. So in that recording, they play two, da 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 da, right? In this, it's da 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 da. It's the same as the first note, the way it's written here. Okay, da da da. So it's just a little pickup note. But if you jump to the last, down here to the last note in the phrase, right? Measure 8. You see the little 8 right there. If you look at that measure, you'll notice there's only a dotted quarter note in there, right? There's a dotted quarter note in there, which means it's not a full measure because it's not equal to 2 quarter notes, right? And that's because this little pickup is the missing, what's missing, okay? So this last measure, if you have a pickup note, which many things do, but not all of them do, then that will add up to, you know, this last measure plus that pickup will make a full measure, okay? And the way Barnes wrote it, there's no pickup there, but there's a rest there. So when you start playing, it just starts with da 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 da, right? But that rest ties in with this. See, the last bar again has a dotted, in this case, half note. So this quarter rest finishes that measure. Okay? Everyone with me? I hope I'm not losing anybody. Or are you completely bored because you know this already? Okay, good. I can't, by the way, I can see 6 of you, but I can't see everyone because you know, it's small. So I hope I'm not losing anybody. Are there any questions or anything? Anything confusing or so far? No? Okay, great. Okay. Pardon me, I'm just gonna take a quick drink. I've been talking a lot. Okay. As you'll notice, ooh, my back hurts. So Eileen asked a question in the chat, what difference does the key signature make? The key signature has nothing to do with rhythm, which is more what we're talking about at the moment. The key signature tells you what notes you play, how to play, you know, what notes you're gonna play. So you partially. So, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I just noticed something else. So like in the, and maybe this is why you asked the question, Eileen, because this, yeah, the Mendocino one over here on my left has one sharp. I just highlighted that, that's cool. One sharp for the time key signature, whereas Barnes has, this is a flat. Oops, that's interesting, right? That's that little B that I was talking about before. One flat for the B, for the key signature, right? And the B is on the B, right? It's B flat. Whereas over here, the sharp is all the way up on the F. Yes. Sorry, again, I'm so out of practice that I always have to go through in my head what the notes are. And since we're talking about that, let's look at this really quickly. Basically, for treble clef, the lines, you can see here, E, G, B, D, F, right? And then the spaces are from bottom to top, F, F-A-C-E. And so the way you remember that is F-A-C-E, the spaces spell face, obviously. Whereas there's a mnemonic, that's the right word, right? For the lines, which is every good boy deserves fun, or every good boy does fine, whatever. Yeah, so it's just a way to remember what the thing is. And I'm so out of practice that I have to go through that every time before I can before I know what the stupid letter is. So anyway, so the sharp over here is on the F, where the flat over here is on the B. But they're the same key. I'm pretty sure they're basically the same key, I believe. No, maybe they're not, actually. I guess it's not. Yeah, they're different keys. So this one is E, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, please, because some of you are better than I am. But this one with one sharp is E minor. And then this over here is D minor. And I know that because this letter, right, the chord. Great. Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay's not helping with technical stuff today, but it's always great to have her in class. So thank you. Yeah, so they're the same key. They're not the same key, rather. But the tune is going to be the same, more or less. It's just transposed. It's just in a different key. And yeah, sure. Actually, Lindsay said she could demo the difference if you want. It's going to sound more or less the same, except that one will be higher than the other or something like that. So, gosh, you got a piano right there.
I know.
My
If it
piano's
turns on.
downstairs. Huh?
If it turns on.
I have a piano downstairs, but
Okay, so key of D minor. Okay, so. So that's D minor, and then E minor. So it's just a step up.
A step. That's what I figured. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a step up. But I think, so that doesn't matter as much. I think what's more important is the fact that it's minor as opposed to major. So could you play the same notes in major? Would that be like the same melody, but as a major? You know what I mean? Oh, wait, you're muted again.
Okay, I will try. All right, so instead of D minor, so D major is.
Right. Which has a very, very different mood to it, yeah? So that's more important often than the key, than specifically the key, right? Because you can move the key around, and for like if you have a singer who's singing with you and you want it to fit their voice a little more comfortably, then you would pick a key that suits them and hopefully isn't too hard for the pianist to play. Because like the more sharps and stuff, sometimes it can get really difficult. Actually, Lindsay knows better than I would in that case, but and yes, different, that's absolutely right, Kara, as Kara said in the chat bar, different instruments are sometimes either easier to play in different keys, or they're tuned to a specific key, and then everybody else has to adjust. So like if you're playing if you have a string instrument with a brass instrument, for example, the string will probably have to tune their instrument to the brass, because the brass can't really control how their instrument is tuned. That kind of a thing. I hope that's a correct example. Yeah, everyone cool so far? Okay, cool. All right, so if I jump back into this, and again, that's why I'm not going to worry too much about talking about key signatures or anything like that. For one, I don't know them well enough. But for another, that's more of a feeling. You can sort of listen to the music, you can hear whether it's major or minor or mixolydian or some other, non-Western mode, right? And you can sort of play with that, try to sort of improvise a little bit with what that music is telling you to do, right? If it sounds different because it's a different mode or key or whatever, you can sort of play with it in that sense. but I'm not going to get into it much further than what we're doing here. Okay, so that's awesome, Lindsay. She said, as the rocket scientist once said, at least it's not music theory. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I studied music. I studied piano when I was young, and then I gave it up because I never wanted to practice, right? Shocker. And then I went to school, high school, for voice. I studied voice in high school, and we had to take music theory classes, and I hated it, and I could not figure it out at all. Like, I was so confused. And my mother sat me down at the piano and said, okay, we're going to play the piano again. And then so much music theory just made more sense. It just sort of snapped into place because I could see it on the piano and on the music and go, oh, I get it now, you know. Of course, I've forgotten most of it by now, but in terms of chords and that sort of stuff, harmonies and that kind of stuff. But so playing an instrument definitely helps you with that. Okay, so back to child growth for a sec. As we were talking about, you can see where the bar lines are, right? You can count up the number of bars, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus that little opening thing, right? The last, as I said, the last bar and the first little, in this case, rest over here, it's a note, equals 1 measure, basically, right? So it's 8 measures for that first part, okay? And then it's repeated, 8 measures for that first part. So again, dee 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 dee, dee 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 dee, and sorry, I'm trying to count the measures. It's not working. Dee 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 dee. There they go. Dee 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 dee. 5 dee 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 6 dee dee 7 dee 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 8. There, that's right. Then you repeat that. 1 da 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 2 da da 3 da 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 4 da 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 5 da 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 6 da da 7 da 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 8. Okay. Then it goes to the B part, and there's another little. That's the what's called the second ending. These 2 quarter notes. So it's slightly different. It's a pickup. They're pickup notes, but they're slightly different from this pickup note, right? Da da da. Da da 1 da 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 2 da 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 3 da 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 4 da 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 5 da 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 6 da 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 7 da 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 8. Then you repeat all of that. Da da 1 da da 2 da da 3 da da 4 da 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 5 da 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 6 da 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 7 da 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 8. Yeah. Don't judge me by my pitch. I'm out of practice. All right. So, and that is a very, very, very common phrasing for probably the majority of dances, right? The first line is the A. The second line is the B. There's 8 measures for each. The A is repeated, the B is repeated. So it's A, A, B, B. Okay? Very, very common. Portsmouth was the same way. Let's see, if I go back to Portsmouth, is it too easy to go back to Portsmouth? There it is. Same thing, right? Little pickup, but then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Matches with that is the 8. Repeat sign right there. So you do that again. That's the A part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then it jumps down to the bottom line, which is the B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah? Very easy. Lots of tunes have that same thing. Okay? So that's your phrasing. And that's what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, especially in terms of, you know, doing figures and dancing. You know, doing our set and turn single is often an 8. You know, an A, right? Sometimes, yeah, right? Because it's one, if I stand up, oh, my legs are stiff. Okay, if I stand up, it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, that's the setting, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 is the turn single. That's actually turn single. That's actually 8 counts, which is 2 bars. 4 bars. Oh my God. Hold on. Sorry, give me a second. See, it gets kind of confusing. It is basic math, but that's why it gets confusing. Where is something that starts with a set and turns single? I don't have anything at the ready. Oh gosh. But I'm not sure. Juliet asked if Sharp's interpretation of Portsmouth has only 1 B. I don't know, actually. It's not in here, is it? And I'll be honest, I'm not actually that familiar with Portsmouth as a dance. I looked at the video, but I don't remember if I've done it, danced it or not. It's impossible to know absolutely everything. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at, whoops, the Playford Ball. And it is, the dance at least, is written out as AAB, only 1 B. Which means, that's interesting. That means, then my guess here, either it's a different interpretation, yeah, or my guess here is that this repeat sign should not be there. Maybe that's an error. And this is, oh, I'll mention, by the way, this is, if anybody was at Kate's talk a few weeks ago, God, it was several weeks ago now, where she talked about the first edition. The edition that I have, the edition that I have is so ancient. Can you see this? It's the first, like it's not the first printing, but it's the first edition. So some of these, as you can see on here, she talked about how she had done it by hand first and then had to go through and like do it with I guess with a computer or something. You can see it's sort of like that handwritten thing. And I don't have the extended or the revised edition, so I'm missing like 300 dances. I need to replace this with the I need to replace this with the you know, with the revised edition because it has more dances in it. Anyway, so it's possible that this is such an old edition, it's possible that that's an error, that repeat sign. So if Playford Ball, this one says that it's only 1 B, then it's possible it doesn't, let me see, there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It still has all 8 measures. I can try to hold it up there. Can you see that? Am I holding the correct page?
Renee, since you still have share screen, we can only see the tiny thumbnail.
Oh, sorry. Let's see how do I do that. Spotlight? Will that do it?
I would suggest stopping share for a minute.
Sorry. Is this better? Let's see. Oopsie. I didn't take a picture of it to put it in my computer because I didn't think we'd need it, you know. But so it looks, it's not looking carefully enough, but it looks more or less the same as what's on the screen, right? And it's got the little pickup, I'm looking at the bottom line, and then 8 measures. But there's no repeat sign at the end, right? There's the repeat sign on the top bar, top line, but not on the bottom line. Quite possible. Carol, what does yours say? How is your, I might have I have 2 copies of this in fact too, so, but I think they're the same.
Mine's got 2B, and it's also different box.
It does have 2B.
We must have 2 different editions.
Interesting. I almost wonder if I wonder why is it revised or something like that?
let's see, I don't know. Copyright 1974, third printing, second edition.
I can answer that if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, you, Linda.
Pat Shaw reinterpreted it with the 2 Bs.
Okay.
There's the difference. Also from the Neal collection, there are 2 Bs. And the only one that has 1 B is sharp. And as long as we stuck with sharp, then 1 B. So it depends on that little argument that's been ongoing for many decades. So there are I have 3 different cards for Portsmouth, each by a different interpreter.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
do they do the steps differ a lot, or, and I don't want to get too much into this because it's a little off topic.
Yes, they are different. This is probably not the time to go into it, but yes, they are. Only the haze at the beginning are the same.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So, and that's sort of the living tradition. Things keep changing. And if you heard David Millstone last night, I thought that was really interesting what he was saying about how Pat Shaw came in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and basically gave everyone permission to sort of play around. You know, he said, it's possible Sharp was wrong about certain things, and people, you know, reconsidered how things were done or how things were interpreted or reconstructed, you know. So, yeah, so there are some of those differences, I guess. Cool. But, so maybe that was a difficult example. But again, most dances, many dances will be AABB, 8 measures for each of those things, right? Okay, so let's look at an example of something that's not that. Excuse me. And I'm going to share my screen again somewhere. I'm just going to share my whole desktop because it seems easier. Okay, so we got Trip to Paris. And I'm just going to, I'm going to put the music up here. Actually, this is another one that I believe, yeah. Sure, why not? Oops. There. Over here, it's in 2/4. And over here in Barnes, it's in 2/2. So it's another one of those where they just wrote them differently for whatever reason. And I'm not sure why, like how it's different. I don't know. I think in some ways maybe the quarter notes are easier to read than a whole bunch of flags. That would be my guess. I guess Kate could tell us otherwise, you know, a different answer. So I'm just going to play this. We all know Trip to Paris, but it's good to hear it anyway. And then you can sort of follow along with the music. No repeat part, yeah? So it goes right to the next one. Lost track. Then it repeats because the dance repeats, right? Yeah? So this one, ooh, any guesses on how this is sort of set up? So first thing you could do, and you can either listen to it and try to, and when that's the thing, when we're on the dance floor, we have to listen to it and figure it out. We can't look at the music, obviously. If we're at a dance on the dance floor, we're not going to go up and stand over the musician's shoulder or anything like that. At least I might, I suppose, but no, we wouldn't do that. So we would just listen to it. Here, since we have the music, we can see, you can count it. The measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then there's that double line, which is basically an ending, but not the ending, right? But it doesn't have the 2 little dots there, so it's not telling us to repeat, right? like up here, these little dots up there, right? We remember. So then it just goes into the next part. This is not a full measure, clearly, so it's a pickup, right? But then we have the full measures, and you count that. So you don't want to count the pickup as a full measure because it's not one. But then we count here, da, 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 right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keeps going. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, still going, 17, 18, right? If it stopped at 16, we could kind of go, okay, well, you know, it's one whole long B, but it's still 16 measures, which is the same as if it were two Bs of 8 measures. But no, it's got those 2 random extra measures tacked on the end, right? It's 18 measures on that second part. So this dance is A, B, 8 measures for the A, 18 measures for the B. So I'm going to play it again. And again, it's written in a way that makes sense. It sounds, you know, it fits, it works. It doesn't necessarily sound weird, but it does sound a little bit weird because the 8, either we're so used to having 8 measures, you know, A, 8 measures, B, 8 measures, that this is obviously not that. Or, yeah, so either we're so used to that this sounds weird, or that extra couple measures just sounds weird, right? So I kind of lost track of what I was saying, sorry. But I'm going to play it again, and we'll listen to it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't repeat. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can either count it the way I counted it, which is 8, obviously 8 for the A, but then 8 and then 10, right? But even as I was counting it, I kind of wanted to do like 10 and then 8, I think. I forget. How did I want to do it? When you're hearing it, and you know, maybe you'll have a different interpretation or a different thought about it or whatever, and we know this, a lot of us know this dance pretty well, so maybe that influences how we perceive it also. But the second part, da 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 da, that's 8, and that feels kind of like it feels sort of not quite done, even though that's 8. But da 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 dum, that feels like an ending, yeah. And then da 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 ba ba da 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 ba ba da 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 dum ba ba da da dum. That's a full 8 that feels like one phrase. Does that make sense? So I was saying before how you know, if the notes or the beats are words and the measures are sentences, and then the sentences strung together is a paragraph, it has sort of a natural sounding end or temporary end to it. There isn't one written in here until the very, you know, 18th measure, but you can kind of hear one in there. Yeah? Does that make sense at all? Yeah? Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump to or boggy, which is another really weird one. And actually, Suzanne Ford mentioned or boggy to me a long time, like several weeks ago, after the first or second class. She said, "What do you like better, or boggy or take a dance?" Because they're basically the same exact dance. They're the same figures, but the music obviously is very, very different. And I listened to it and I said, that's a crooked tune. What a weird tune. And she said, no, it's not. And I was like, but I wasn't familiar enough with it. So let's take a look at this. Can you see it? It's small compared to everything else. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, okay. So, Orbagi, if you look at it, it's in 2/2. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in a table, never mind, 7, 8, and then a a repeat. So that's your A. Repeats it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then the B part. Oh, and this piece of music even says A part and then B part. B part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like it's your average, normal kind of, AABB regular old tune, right? But if you play it and listen to it, and again, I wasn't familiar with it before. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but listen to it here. Let's repeat. And the B. Okay, the B again. Stop it there. What did you think about that? Feel free to unmute yourselves. How many of you were familiar with that, first of all? Right, because I wasn't before. A couple of people, okay. Does it sound?
But I noticed that the phrases, a lot of times the phrases end, in the same chord as they started. Gives you this real feeling of completion, and these don't.
Yeah.
They end on this A minor chord, or according to the, chords at the top.
That's common, I think. That's pretty common because that's what the dominant, that's what the sort of the key it's in, and it's the sort of the main thing, and often a tune will start and end on that dominant note. Yeah. What else? Go ahead.
They're ending on a different note.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Confusing. There's Carrie here. Hi. I was going to say, I think she was saying it starts in C major. The A and the B both start in C major and end in A minor.
Oh, you're right. So sorry about that. Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that is a little more unusual, I think. Yeah, because if I jump back to Trip to Paris, it starts and ends in A minor. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. I got confused. Good. What else do you notice, anyone? And it's possible I'm just hearing it differently than other people. But basically, to me, I hear a pretty, again, the phrases, if a phrase is like a paragraph, it sort of has a temporary ending, a temporary finish, and then goes on. I hear the temporary finish around measure 6. And then there's 2 more measures that are just kind of tacked on. They're not tacked on, but that's what it sounds like to me. And again, that's without knowing the dance. So and that's true in both A and the B. So if I play it again, and there's no intro on this piece of music, you can hear. That feels like an ending. But then it's got 2 more measures. 2.5, really. And then the B. 6. Again, it sounds like it sort of finishes on the 6th measure. Does anyone else notice that, or is it just me? It's just me, huh? Okay, never mind.
No, I totally noticed that. It sounds like a song that you can never end.
Right. This is the song that never ends. Yeah, exactly. It just feels like it would continue looping. Cool. Okay. I want to do at least one more weird example like that. And that is, let's see, where is it? I've mentioned this before. This is, again, apologize for the small, oops, that's better. I've played this one before. Oh, there's a lot of notes on here. And it's a very weird dance. I mean, not the dance itself, but the tune strikes me as very weird. So you can try to follow along with the music here if you want to, or just listen. That's the whole tune. So it's very, I found a video of the dance where Gene Morrow is calling and he says something like, it's an ECD tune. It's an ECD tune, you know, but it's so windy, you know, it's a jig, first of all, right? So, okay. So if you look, sorry, I should have let you, anyway. Oh my goodness, it's late. So we have the treble clef, we have the time signature, which is 6/8, which means, again, anyone want to guess?
It's a jig.
Correct, but what's the time signature mean? If you break, you know, what is the top number and the bottom number, that kind of thing?
6 beats and it's 8th notes.
Correct. 6 beats counted in 8th note values, right? So 6 8th notes per measure. So if you look at, or the equivalent of 6 8th notes per measure, right? So if you look at this first bar, we've got a quarter note, which is 2 8th notes, then 4 8th notes. Oh, and I think this is, I'm just looking at why this is an 8th note followed by 3 8th notes beamed together. And I'm guessing because that's a triplet, but maybe somebody who is better at music than, yes, Lindsay. Oh, you froze.
It's grouped in threes. So it's grouped in threes. So you've got a quarter note and an 8th, that's 3, and then you have 3 8th notes, that's 3.
Because it's a jig, right? Awesome. Yes, because as we've said, jig again is jiggity, 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 right? So that makes sense. Thank you, Lindsay. So it's written that way. So it's not a triplet, but it's written that way so that it makes sense rhythmically, I guess. Is that fair to say? Okay. So we got an 8th note, a quarter note and an 8th note, and then 3 8th notes, a full jiggity. Then we got a quarter note and an 8th, a quarter note and an 8th, quarter note, 8th note, full jiggity, if you will. Okay, and so on. But, so it's a jig, right? But the tune is very sort of weird and windy, whatever. But if you jump over here, this is where the end of the first phrase is, because there's that double line. But it's not a repeat. It doesn't repeat. And then it keeps going. Got a whole bunch more 8th notes over here. And then this is the actual end, right? So if I play it again, I kept short, and again, I don't know the dance. I have never danced this dance. I looked at a video earlier, but I've never danced a dance. So it doesn't tell me what to do in the same way that other dances might. Right, or other tunes might. But it's very, very windy, and I had to listen to it again and again to try to figure out where everything is, right? So I'm going to play it again. you think about that tune? First of all, how many of you know it? Many of you know it? Yeah, me neither. A couple of people. Linda, you have quite a knowledge of different dances, I can tell.
Been a teacher a long time.
Awesome.
The comments are that many of us know it and love it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And just because I don't doesn't mean anything, you know. So what do you, if you don't know it, especially, what do you think of the tune? Like, can you make sense of it? Like, does it, you know? So it looks like out east, a lot of people do this dance, Whimsy, Whimsy Roundabout, this is.
We used to do it out here too. It was on the Playful to the Present ball, I think the first time I attended, but that was a while ago.
Okay, awesome. But
it's, you know, it's Gary Rudman, isn't it? So it's one of his fairly ones, isn't it? I think so. But it depends which community you're in.
I've probably danced it also, but I don't remember having done so. So, and that's the other, you know, again, there's so many dances that I can't keep track of them all. I don't, you know, I envy people who can, but there's just so many that it's hard to keep track of it all. And as a caller, I'm still building my repertoire. So, but anyway, for me, I have to sort of figure out where it is. And so to me, there's, you know, again, talking about those sort of temporary endings, right? Again, I hear it after measure 6, right? I'll play it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it goes into something else. And then obviously that's an ending. And then it goes again, it's Roundabout is a perfect name for the tune because it's such a windy kind of a tune, which I see is by O'Carolan. But what's weird about it too is that if you count the measures, if you just count the measures, it's 16 measures for each part. The A part is 16 and the B part is 16. So obviously it's the, you know, the way the notes are strung together, the, you know, if a measure ends on sort of an up instead of a down, or if it, you know, I was talking about the dominant, if it doesn't end on a dominant, then, or let me see, if a measure ends on a dominant, but it's not at the end of the phrase, then that can feel like an ending, that sort of thing. So the notes and the way they're strung together can make it sound different. Does that make sense? I kind of lost track of what I was saying, but so it's 16 measures, but it doesn't sound like a full completed phrase. It's just kind of all over the place. Does that make sense? Maybe, kind of. Okay. Fast and notey, although most like the tune anyway. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, but there's an example of a 6/8. Let's see, I'm thinking that I've mostly shown everything that, oh my gosh, I have so many things open here. Mostly talk about everything I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. I can show you an example of a 9/8. Oops, just so you can see. I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. I wasn't thinking. I meant, this is a 3/2. So just really quickly, right, Up with Ailey, I've played that before. Oh, and this is an example also of one that is, it's not, again, many, even if it's in 3/2 or 9/8, it will often have A, B, B, 8 measures for each of those things, right? So where is, yes, Trip to Towno. This one is a 9/8, right? Which means, again, we're measuring in eighth notes, that's the bottom number, and there's 9 per measure, right? Or the equivalent of 9 eighth notes per measure. So, da 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 da. I'm not going to sing it because I'm terrible, but I'll play it. That repeats. So you can see there's only 4 measures. So there's 4 measures per line, but it's AABB with 4 measures each. And sometimes that'll happen because it's 9/8, right, as opposed to 4/4 or 6/8. Okay, so that's the one that's jiggity, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. Up with Ailey. Now where did it go? It's right here. Up with Ailey is in 3/2, so it's 3 half notes per measure. Then it goes into the B. Okay. So this one is, so the Triptych, which I played a second ago, right, the 9/8, the slip jig, is fairly even. It's AABB, 4 measures for each of those. Up with Ailey is in 3/2, so you could sing really, 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 right? 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? But the first A is 6 measures, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So not 4, not 8, but 6. And there's the repeat, so it's AA. And then the second part, the B, is regular with 8 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it does not repeat. So this dance is AAB, 6 measures for the A's, hi cutie, and 8 measures for the B. So it's a little weird, not quite crooked, but kind of crooked. I think I asked one musician, Patty McCollum, and she said that at least in contra dancing, a crooked tune is anything that's not AABB 32 bars, basically, or 8 bars per. I believe that's what she said. So, yeah. So, and it's almost, oh my goodness, it's almost 7 o'clock. Are there any questions at all? I know this is a lot, but any questions about anything? Was it useful? Are you completely confused? Let me stop sharing. Are you totally baffled or? Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Laura. Any questions or anything? If people want to hang out, we can either chat, or if people want to, we can do our warm-up. I'm sorry we didn't get to do much moving, and I know that at least some of us wanted to do some physicality. So if you want to stick around for 15 minutes or something and do a warm-up, we can do that just to get some exercise. Or we can just hang out and chat.
Well, the movement would be great if we could probably chat while we're pointing and flexing and
True.
stuff.
That's true. If we do it without music, we could do that. Okay, cool. Well, here's what I will do. I will, okay, great. I've been recording this. It's been mostly recording me or my screen. So I might share this online if people are okay with that. But I might not. I haven't decided. Link the times, yes. So here's what I'll do. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you are able to give a donation either to myself or to Bare Necessities, we would all appreciate it. I know it's very, times are tough right now. So whatever you are able to do. If not, I'm just happy to have you here with me. There's so much going on Zoom nowadays. So I really appreciate you spending this time with me. And I hope it was worthwhile. So I'm going to officially end the class, but then keep going, and we'll do some warm up. If you need to go, obviously that's fine. If you want to stick around, we can chat and do a little warm up. So, or a little exercise, I should say. It's a warm up for nothing, but just a little exercise. Yeah. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. Let's just do a little stretch. So I'm going to stop the recording too.